All right, good afternoon or good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 3 ways to expose hidden secrets in your charts. All right, so today we have, it's a bit of a group effort today for today's webinar. So my name's Grant Cumming. I head up the sales team here at Navigo. I'll mostly be emceeing and looking after housekeeping, the poll and Q&A mostly today. So Zach Sabri, our org charting extraordinaire, is going to be mostly presenting today's webinar. So Zach, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Grant, and thanks everyone for making time to join us today. So my name's Zach, and like Grant, I'm one of the workforce visualization experts here at Navigo. And in today's webinar, I hope to share some great tips on how to improve your org charting process and experience.
All right, and we also have Billy Arago, who heads up our customer success team and is our technical wizard when it comes to org charting. So Billy, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, so I mainly deal with customers during the implementations and training for either Planet Work or OrgPlus Desktop. And then when I'm in the office, I am managing support with the other consultants here.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Billy and Zach. So look, before we kick off, just a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, we've put everyone on mute, so we cannot hear you. Hopefully, you can hear us okay. If you do have any questions during the course of the webinar, please click the little Q&A icon up the top of your screen, type your question in and press send. You can do that at any stage throughout the webinar, but please be aware that we won't actually respond to questions until the end. So we will leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of this webinar to address any of those that come through. All right, so Zach, what are we looking at today?
Okay, so this webinar really stems from speaking to you guys, our customers. Now, as you know, Grant and I are not only org charting specialists, we are also your account managers. And part of our account management role is to really listen to what our customers want from us and what sort of information and resources that you'd actually like to see. So today we're getting a bit technical. We're going to dive into some functions and tools that will allow you to expose hidden secrets in your org charts. Now, this webinar is being recorded, so if you miss some of the steps that we show you today, you can re-watch them later, so no worries there. Now, as expected, we do have some attendees who are not our current customers. So I think it's worthwhile just to quickly talk about the importance of using and having org charts. So why use org charts as a medium to share information? Why are charts a good alternative to HR reports or extracts? Now, org charts are and can be very, very visual because org charts are a visual representation of your organization. This means that the information is in a form that can be consumed easily, and this is more appealing to read as well, which leads me to the second point. Easy to understand. We have to remember that while an HR extract or an in-depth report might make sense to us, it won't make much sense to non-HR personnel. So org charts are, again, a great way to simplify and condense that information. Org charts are also very easy to share. So they can be easily shared in an organization. A very popular option is to, of course, upload an org chart onto your intranet for everyone to see. And last but not least, it directly mirrors your source of truth as well, which is great for a few reasons. For one, you will have an accurate snapshot of what the organization looks like. You will also be prompted if you have dirty data. For example, when someone has left the organization, but they're still showing up in your charts, that means you've got some dirty data in your HR or payroll system. But this is something that most of you already know, hence why you have powerful org charting tools like OrgPlus or Planning at Work. Now, we all know that having the tools is only half of the battle, as it's also important to know how to use them effectively, which brings us to the focus of today's webinar. We want you to be the org charting experts. Now, we want to help you get the most out of your org charting tools by guiding you on how to more effectively use the solutions that you currently have on hand, be that desktop or enterprise. So today's webinar will benefit everyone, no matter if you've already got an org charting solution implemented, or even if you don't have one implemented and would just like to see what a dedicated tool with the capability of visual cues can do for you, this webinar will be for you as well. Now, before we dive deeper into the rabbit hole, we'd like to learn a bit more about you guys. So please let us know in the poll that's about to pop up on your screen. Are you using visual cues at all in your charts? So the first option there is you are, but only for styling purposes. Second option, you do, but manually update them every single time you refresh your charts. The third one is you do, and the process is fully automated. So well done. And number 4, you have no idea what are visual cues.
All right, so I'm just going to launch that poll now. Okay, so if everyone can participate in that, we'll give that about 30 seconds or so. Okay, I'm not too sure what's happening there. I'm not too sure if it doesn't appear as though we've had anyone voting.
So I'll probably give that maybe 10, 20 seconds just before people start voting.
Okay, I'm going to close that poll. I'm not too sure what happened there, whether people couldn't see the poll, but it doesn't look like we had anyone participate.
Oh no, what's going on?
Could be a technical issue there, so I'm not too sure. In any case, let's keep going.
I'm going to assume that everyone does have some sort of visual cue in your charts at the moment, but you're just doing them manually, which if that's going to be the case, that this webinar is actually going to be perfect for you. Okay. So if you haven't already figured it out, today we'll be talking about visual cues in your charts and how visual cues can assist you in exposing secrets, trends, or even just automating any sort of styling that you have. So what are visual cues? Well, visual cues is another way to deliver information in your org charts. It's as simple as that. Now, when you think about visual cues, you have to think about colors, icons, shapes, hiding, displaying boxes, maybe even grouping, certain roles. Basically, it allows a way for you to deliver more information without really adding more fields. Of course, there's nothing wrong with adding in more fields, but visual cues is just another way you can, deliver information. Why is it important? Well, your org chart is, again, the bridge between your source of truth and your end users. Now, whether the charts are meant for an executive or investors or even just for your general employees, the information needs to make sense. It needs to be easily consumed and visually pleasing. If it's not, no one is really going to look at the charts or use them, and you'll get little to no value out of your charts. Not to mention that some of you might have a company styling guide that you need to adhere to, which does in some way tie with what we'll be learning today. So what are we actually going to learn today? Well, we are going to basically go through how we can take this simple chart and turn it into this, and potentially this. And wait for it, automate the entire process as well. Your applause is deafening. Thank you. So Billy, you're our workforce visualization Gandalf. You're our Lord of the charts. From a technical standpoint, I've got two questions. First question, what additional modules are actually needed for both OrgPlus Desktop and Planning at Work customers to create visual cues?
Yeah, so there's no actual additional modules required to set up these visual cues. They're all a part of the base product.
Okay, that's good. So that means if you've got the basic product on hand, you're good to go straight away. Will you need to be on the latest version of our products though?
No, so all versions of OrgPlus Desktop will support this technique.
Perfect. Okay, question two. What are the basic elements that you need to set up a visual cue?
Yeah, so in both solutions, we'll be following these three simple steps. So first of all, we'll be going through creating a formula. So this is just similar to your Excel formulas, whether they can be FG rollups or totals, or even counting the actual number of records in the spreadsheet you have. So if you are familiar with that in Excel, you can easily transfer those skills over to OrgPlus Desktop or Planning at Work. Second would be setting up the rule. So this is when you actually want to apply your condition to the boxes. So whether that you want to highlight if someone's a full-time, part-time, or casual employee, or even if they're male or female. So this is just going to be looking at the data to when you actually want to set the rule. And thirdly, you'd be setting up the condition. So this is what you actually want to display in the box, whether it's changing the color, changing the actual data available in the box. So what you actually want to show people.
Okay, cool. So if you haven't actually used any of these before and are looking to use them, after this session, a good way to determine what sort of formulae, rule, or even conditional format that you would need would be to ask yourself these questions. So in terms of creating a formula, you'd ask yourself, what sort of metrics would you actually like to calculate? Are you looking to do a salary roll-up? Do you want to see the FTE of a specific, employee? Are you doing a headcount roll-up for males only? So that's the question that you would ask when creating formula. When setting up a rule, it's even more basic. What will actually trigger a visual cue? So what is the benchmark that will actually get the visual cue to happen in your charts? And when you're setting up a conditional format, that's probably the easiest. What do you actually want the visual cue to look like? There's going to be a lot of tweaking options that you have when determining, your conditional format, and we'll show you quickly some of those options in the next few slides. Okay, a quick overview of what we will be accomplishing today. Now, our aim is to get a generic chart, freshly imported, and change it into this. Now, it's going to be a fairly simple exercise, but there will be a few things going on. The first thing is we will be creating two formula that will calculate the headcounts of males and females as the direct subordinate. So you can see that we've got male and female headcount there. Second thing we'll be doing is we'll be setting up a rule to actually tell our solutions if a person is a male or female. And after we've established the rule, we'll actually go into the conditional format and get them to actually change the color of the box. So females, pink for females and blue for males. So we'll go through the exercise one step at a time. We'll show you how the step is done in OrgPlus Desktop. And while you're digesting that information, we will actually jump into Planning at Work and show you how it's done in there as well. That's mainly for our enterprise customers. And again, just to reiterate, the webinar is being recorded. So we will post it up later and you can come back to it in your own time. Okay, step one, defining the formula. What metrics would we like to calculate? So we've already established this. What we currently want to do is we want to create a formula that calculates the headcount for males and females. So what we will do is we'll use the define fields and we will add a new field and call it headcount female. and we will do this as a formula, and that should bring up the formula box. Now you can see there are a few ranges that you can choose here. For the purpose of this demonstration, we will just be using direct subordinates. The criteria is gender, and the gender only equals to females. So what this essentially does, it creates a formula that will calculate the direct subordinates of a person or position and only count the females. Now we'll do another one again, so I'll just show you that process again. We'll do head count, male, formula, again direct subordinates, and this time the criteria gender equals to male.
Just while you're doing this, Zach, is it possible to copy formulas or fields?
Definitely. So we just showed that twice, so everyone will know what's going on. But if you look down here, you'll actually see the option to duplicate rules. So if the rules are revolving around a very similar parameter, you will be able to duplicate that just to save time. Perfect. And we will add those fields into the chart. Now you can see it's actually missing the title of that field, but we'll show you how to add that in the next few slides. Okay, so we'll do a quick recap. So defining the formula in OrgPlus Desktop, again, the first step will be to use the define fields option. You will then add a new formula and then define the parameters of that formula. Okay, now while you're digesting that information, we're going to jump into planning at work and show you how it's done on the enterprise side. So all of our planning at work customers, you might want to start paying attention. Billy, I'll actually get you to take the helm on this one.
Yes, of course. So in planning at work, would need be creating the new formula in the administration area. So we're already in there to start this demonstration. So we're going to go ahead and select new, similar to the defined fields, and give this a name. Give me female head count, and change the field type from a text to formula, and in here define the actual formula. So this is all similar to what we did in desktop, and we set up a condition as well. So we only want to calculate this when gender is female. Okay.
Perfect. So the gist of it is actually quite the same, but obviously the interface is different from what our desktop customers normally see, and vice versa. So a quick recap of defining the formula in planning at work. Again, you'll actually have to get your administrator, or if you're already the admin, go into the administration area and create a new formula. Again, you'll just set some parameters around that field. And for the purpose of this demonstration, again, you'll set the gender to female. Okay, step 2, setting the rules. So this is where we actually tell our solutions what is going to trigger the conditional format to appear. So we'll go back to OrgPlus Desktop now. So this time we'll actually be going into the conditional formatting option. So before we were doing it in defined fields, now we'll do it in conditional formatting. And it's going to be very simple. Currently, you don't see any rules being set up here. So what we'll do is we'll add a new rule saying that this person is female. So very similar to what we did before in the formula, equals to female. And this time we will actually just copy that. Edit. Is male. and contents equals to mail. So now we've set up some rules, but we haven't actually set up what the rules will trigger. So we'll do that in a second. So we'll do a quick recap of those steps just in case I went a bit too fast there. So again, instead of using the defined fields, we'll use the conditional formatting option. So just click on that. That should bring up the conditional formatting box. And what you'll be doing is you'll be adding in a new rule and just setting up parameters around that rule. So we're saying if a person is male in your charts, then a certain conditional format will be triggered. Okay, so we'll just let you digest that information and we'll jump into planning at work again. So Billy, are you set up on your computer?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll just pass this back to you now.
Yep, so in planning at work, we'll be doing the conditional formatting in the view editing. So this would also be in the administration section. So here I already have a basic chart with just the default box available. So we're going to go ahead and add a new box type. So to do that, we'll go up here to the plus sign, creates this new box type. So we can just double click on this to edit. And now we'll give the box type a name, in this case it can be female, and set the condition for when we want to apply it. Again, similar to desktop, is going to be gender is female. And then we can do the same for males.
Okay, perfect. So again, we'll do a quick recap of that just so you can get a quick snapshot of what those steps were in creating the rules in planning at work. So again, you'll actually be creating a new box type in your administration section. Again, followed by some parameters to name that new rule. And then setting up the rule itself, which again, similar to our last few steps, is setting the gender to be female. Okay. Now the last and final step is to actually set up the conditional formatting, which should be the most fun part of this because you're actually setting up what the visual cue would look like. So again, we'll go back to desktop. Now what we'll do here is we'll add in those field names that we were talking about before. Now this should be pretty basic. Most of you should already know how to do this, and that's just by showing the actual label. And we'll do that for the male as well. Quick preview. Okay, that's not looking too bad, and we'll apply that to the entire chart. Okay, now we'll go back into the conditional formatting. We'll do the female rule first. So we've got the rule selected. What we will now do is go into format box. Now, any sort of changes that you do here will only be applied to that specific rule. So you can see you can actually add in different fields, which will actually change the look of that box. You can add in different, I guess, visual elements, shadows, that sort of thing. You can change the box shape, but for the purpose of this demonstration, we will just be changing the color of the actual box. So we'll change it to pink. Okay, and if it's a male, we'll do the same thing. We'll change the color to blue. Okay. And if we press OK, and there you have it. Now, all of the females in the organization will be highlighted pink, and vice versa with the males as well. Now, because you've set up the rule properly, it doesn't matter, how many times you refresh your charts, those rules will be applicable, which means you don't have to manually change each box every single time you refresh your charts. You won't have to reapply the conditional formatting and rules every single time. So it really does automate the entire process. Quick recap. You're going back into the conditional formatting option. You're selecting the rule, but then clicking on Format Box. And then you just go, you just have fun with changing the actual conditional formatting. So add in more fields, change the color box, change the borders, whatever you want to do. Okay, and we'll jump back into planning at work one last time. I'll let you lead this, Billy.
Yes, so in planning at work, it's done a little bit differently, setting up the actual conditional format box. So instead of in desktop how it pulls in the default values, we have to set up the fields for each box type in here.
Right.
So I've already pulled in a few fields. And so the way that we do this is just go into domain fields. We can search for whatever we want and just click and drag it where we want it to be displayed. Then to edit the label, we just double click on that text field and we can just edit that how we like. Now we can set a box color for this. So setting the top gradient to be just a light pink, red color, and the bottom gradient. Okay. See in the preview that's now been changed.
Right, so that rule that you pulled in, that was the one we created earlier during the rules step, or was that?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and just a quick recap of conditional formatting for planning at work. Again, a bit different to how you do it in OrgPlus Desktop. You'll actually have to create a new box and then fill it with specific fields. Again, we're just looking up the field that we created earlier. We're then dragging that into the custom box and then just renaming the actual field name. And then similar to OrgPlus Desktop, you can, I guess, set up different color schemes for that specific box. And there you have it. Those are the three simple steps that, three different functions that if you weren't using before, you definitely should use moving forward. We've got a few examples here for you just to give you a bit more inspiration. So you can see there that is a generation chart where we've got different color schemes for Gen X, Gen Y, and boomers. And you can also see that we've got a red border. That basically is triggered if we know that a boomer is approaching retirement. So that can be used as a succession planning trigger. Another popular one is leave liability chart. Again, we've set up visual cues to tell us if an employee is approaching a large amount of leave, and that might be something you would want to review. Employment type chart. I think Grant's worked with this one a lot, actually. Do you mind explaining this one, Grant?
Yeah, sure. So because you're putting your data into such a visual environment, a great use of visual cues is actually to highlight dirt in your data. So those of you will probably spot quite quickly that Jessica Brando's record there has a broken red border around her record. And the reason why is because her employment type is part-time, but her FTE in this case is 1. So either the employment type is incorrect or the FTE amount is incorrect. So, so basically what we've done is we've created a visual cue also using formulas, but in this case, we've done it to identify dirty data. It's obviously this is dynamic. If you've set them up properly, it's dynamic. So if you go in and change Jessica Brando's record and then refresh your data, then that visual cue will disappear.
Perfect example of how you can actually, find out if you do have dirty data in your payroll HRIS system. And just one more example here. So this is a good example of a full-on restructure chart. So you can see that we've got a lot of important fields as well as visual cue triggers to show us if a certain trigger is met in the organization. And again, this is really based around restructures. So we've got a lot of information, important information, such as the number of direct subordinates there. You can see Patricia is actually highlighted in red, and I believe that's because she's met the maximum threshold of direct subordinates. Is that correct, Billy?
Yes, correct. So she has over 5 or more. So we're highlighting that.
And why does Anna only have, or why does she have a yellow border there?
Yeah, so we also look at when people have too few subordinates, just to try and find that happy medium of 3 to 4 correct reports.
Gotcha, which explains why Karen doesn't actually have any sort of highlights, because she's in that, I guess, OK space.
Exactly.
Subordinates. Yeah, perfect. So we've actually got all of these examples compiled online. It's called our chart portfolio, and we have one for OrgPlus as well as Planning at Work. I'll be sure to include a link in a follow-up email that we're sending out, so please feel free to use the chart portfolio as inspiration as a charting guide. Speaking about guide or guidance, if you know what charts you would absolutely like to have, but you don't have the capacity, whether that be just general know-how, or if you've got time constraints, if you're understaffed, or you've got other commitments, we do provide chart creation consultancy. Now, chart creation consultancy can involve our consultants upskilling you and your team on how to create or improve your charts, but it can also involve us creating the charts for you altogether. So, you know, a few options that we provide here. So if you're doing well with your charts, but you just need an extra hand, you know, please feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to discuss. All right, before we wrap up, let's quickly summarize what we've covered today. Now, the tools that you have are very powerful, and we know that you will be making the most out of them after today's session. So first key takeaway is to use the formula to easily communicate, calculate metrics, and basic analytics. The second key takeaway is define customizable rules based on your requirements to, again, define or show your visual cues. And the third takeaway is to create conditional formatting to essentially bring your charts to life, which you know, will allow you to spot organizational trends and expose those secrets that you might have not seen before. Okay, I guess I'd like to open the floor for some questions. So I can see that we've already got some in there, Grant.
Yeah, for sure. So look, just the first one here is, how can I reach a consultant? So what we'll do, well, actually all of the contact details are on screen currently, so you can either take those down, or we will be sending anyone that's registered for this webinar a recording of the webinar, and that will also include all of our contact details as well. So please feel free to either contact Zach or myself in that regard, and we can talk through the finer details from there. Okay, we've got a couple of other questions here. So Zach, you might want to take this one. What are the main differences between OrgPlus and your enterprise tool? I'm assuming what you mean by that is planning at work. Yeah.
So again, very, very simple. OrgPlus Desktop is based on your desktop, so it's a license per user, where Planning at Work is actually cloud-based. So I guess the main differences there is, you know, with OrgPlus Desktop, it's a license per user, but with Planning at Work, you can actually have an unlimited amount of users. And also keep in mind that with a desktop tool, the publishing process is actually manual. So you'll still have to, you know, publish to PDF or HTML and then upload that onto the intranet. But with Planning at Work, because everything's sitting in the cloud, you're providing on-demand access to anyone who has access to the charts. So yeah, it essentially you know, removes the need to manually publish your charts in Planning at Work.
Excellent, thanks for that. Just a little bit further on that as well. With basically, it's all about workflow. So with OrgPlus Desktop, you can automate the process from your source of truth through to publishing and sharing, which is obviously a manual process. With Planning at Work, you can actually automate the process from your source of truth right through to the end user. Planning at Work in the admin area has what we call role-based security, which can be set up to automate access rights to various people across the organization.
Any other questions in there, Grant?
Okay, so are there online guides for visual cues? Yes, we've covered that, and we will actually send you a link to our user guide.
Yes.
When we send through the recording of the webinar. And finally, can you automate visual cues, which I think we've covered a little bit today?
Yeah, so in essence, if you set up the rule properly and you set up the conditional formatting properly, the entire process will be automated, which is really going to save you a lot of time in trying to implement your style guides, all these triggers that you've already done for your first chart. You don't want to do that process manually every single time. If you are, then that really does defeat the purpose. So again, if you set up the rule and conditional formatting properly, the entire process is automated.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that. Do we have any more questions there?
I think we've got one here. So just wondering, what criteria would I use in the formula properties to get a count of span control? Okay, that's a very specific question. We'll probably have to look at how you've set up your charts. So we'll probably get back to you on that one as well. It's probably all the questions that we've got here. So if you do have any more specific questions, we'll make sure to follow up after the webinar. Again, please feel free to send any queries you have our way. Again, we'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, thank you. Thanks again for everyone that attended. Yep. So, like Zach said, for some of those more focused questions, we'll come back to you on an individual basis. And we look forward to your attendance in our next webinar, which should be around about the 26th of April.
That's correct.
You're going to make a note of that.
And I guess if you're interested in looking at some of the stuff that we've published before, you can visit our blog that has a list of all of the previous webinars that we've seen before, available on demand.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you all, and we'll speak to you all next time.